So the second hint is use a constructor overloading technique for team class. A team can add a maximum 11 players. All attributes of player class must be kept private. Okay, so let's go through the tester class and try to match the outputs with the tester code. Okay, so at the very beginning, I have created an object of a team class which is B. I can see that it is a non-parameterized constructor. So, and, okay, can anyone tell me? Do I need to mention? Do I need to mention the constructor in my class?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No.
so for now I can okay for now I am assuming that I don't need to mention the team class, but if we check the second object creation line, this one I have created another object of team class where I have passed an argument. So that means it is basically constructor overloading, and we know that if we mention a constructor in my design class, the default constructor is basically overridden. So initially, though, we assumed that we don't need to mention the team class, we don't need to mention the team constructor, but after looking at the second object creation, which is basically passing an argument while calling the constructor, we are sure that we have to write both constructors in my class. One will be a non-parameterized constructor, one will be a parameterized constructor. Even though I don't need to mention anything inside the body of the constructor, but at least I have to mention the structure of the constructor in my design class. Otherwise, my code won't work. Okay. So first thing is the constructor or object creation line of the team class. After that, B is basically the object. After that, I have a called a method. The name of the method is update name. Okay. So as in whenever we were solving a single class problem, there wasn't any issue. Suppose there is a method and we didn't have any issue to uh, find it out that the method will be inside which class. Basically, there was only one class. একটা class একটু ছিল, right? There was only one class, but as there are multi-class, uh, it is a multi-class problem. So we need to first figure it out that the update method, this update method will be inside which class. So if a method is called with respect to B objects, I need to check the B is basically an object of the team class. So if a method is called with respect to B object, and we need to check the class of the B object. Basically, team is the data type of B object, or team or B is an object of the team class. That means the update name method will be definitely inside the team class. Okay, but suppose we can see that there is another class which is player, and Mashrafi is an object of the player class. So suppose if add a player method is called with respect to Mashrafi object. Okay, suppose if this is the case, so we can say that if as add player method is called with respect to Mashrafi class and Mashrafi object, and Mashrafi is basically an object of the player class, so we can say that the add player method will be inside the player class. Okay, so basically we need to check for which object the method is being called. Okay, so as
ম্যাম, এখন
hmm, বলো।
এখন প্লেয়ারেও যদি আমাদের বি দেওয়া থাকতো তাহলে ওটা কি ম্যাম
না,
মানে লোকেশনটা সুইচ
প্রথম জিনিস হচ্ছে it is not possible to consider the second object as B as well, because we know that if we declare, basically these are variables, right? So you can't declare the same variable, multiple variables with the same name. It's possible না, ঠিক আছে?
ওকে,
Okay.
বুঝছি।
Okay, so at first there will be one team class, and inside the team class there will be one method, and which is update name method. Then there will be another method which is add player method. Then there is a class, a player class, and I have created an object Mashrafi of the player class, and we can see that while creating the object I am passing three values or three arguments. First one is the name of the player, second one is 42. So we can see that 42 is basically the age of the player, and another argument which is 100, it is basically the total matches the player has been played so far. Okay, So basically there are three arguments. That means I have to create a constructor inside the player class as well, where will I pass three values: the name of the player, the age of the player, and the total matches of that player. Similarly, I have created another object of player class which is Tamim, and I have also passed three values. That means there is no constructor overloading for the player class, but for the team class there is a constructor overloading because I haven't passed any argument for the first team or team B, but for the second team, team A, I have passed one argument. Okay. So there is a method called add player, and add player method is called with respect to B object. That means definitely add player method will be inside the team class. Okay, so this method is basically taking an argument which is the object of a player class. That means add player method is a method of a team class, and inside a method of a team class you are passing an object of a player class. Basically you are, this is called reference passing. I am passing and passing the reference of a one object to another class through using a method of another class. Okay, so there will be one method called add player, and after that I guess, okay, so there is one another method which is print detail, and print detail method is called with respect to B object, and B is an object of team class. So obviously there will be basically three methods inside the team class. The first one is update name, the second one is add player, and the third one is print detail. So there will be three different methods in the team class. So let's solve this problem. um, okay, so this is my tester class, and this is the output. So this is the output. So let's first design the team class. Okay, so let's first design the team class. If we see, okay, this one thing, I guess we should check the output first. So whenever I am printing, so this is my first separator. Oh, there isn't any other separator before this line. So this is the first separator, and in between these two separators, b dot print detail method is called. That means b dot print detail, basically it is printing the details of the first team or B team. So if I print the details of the first team, it is basically printing all of this information. The name of the team is Bangladesh. Why it is Bangladesh? Because though I haven't passed any team name while calling the object, while creating the object, but I have updated the name using this update method. So the name of the team is Bangladesh, and list of player. Okay, so list of player is basically Mashrafi. These are the um, properties of Mashrafi, and these are the properties of Tamim. Why Mashrafi and Tamim? Because you can see that I have called the add player method twice. The first time I have passed Mashrafi, and the second time I have passed Tamim. That means inside the add player method, I have to take an array. Okay, I have to take an array, and which will be of player type. Also, it is mentioned in the question that create an array in the team class to store the player's object. So there will be an array which will be of a player type, and we need to know the size of the array. So there is a hint that a team can add maximum 11 players. That means the size of that array will be 11, and this 11 is common for any of the team objects. Okay, that means for team B the size of the array will be 11, for team A the size will be 11. That means we can directly declare and initialize the array, initialize the size of the array. Okay, so let's first design the team class. So public class team. Okay, so there will be one variable which will store the name of the team, right? So let's take one variable, public string name. Okay, suppose t name. T name is for team. Then there will be one array, public player type array. It is mentioned in the question that it will take an array of player type. Even though it is not mentioned, suppose it is not mentioned in the question that you need to take an array of a player type. So how will you know that it is necessary for you to consider the data type of the array player? Basically, if you see that inside the print detail method, okay, inside the print detail method, you're basically printing all the information of Mashrafi, all the information of Tamim. So if you don't take an array of clear type, you need to take three different arrays. One array to store the name of the player, one array to store the age of the player, and one array to store the total matches of the player. That means if you don't consider the data type of the array as player, you need to take three different arrays to store three different properties of each player. So this is not actually appropriate, or this is not efficient, right? So it is better for you to directly store the player object. If you directly store the player object, you can call the variables with that object. You can call any variables with respect to that object. Okay. So let's take the array. So player, public player. Suppose the name of the array is plist. Plist equals to new player, and the size will be 11 because it is mentioned in the question that a team can have a maximum 11 players. Okay. So let's create the constructor. The first constructor will be the team, which is a non-parameterized constructor, and we know that there won't be any return type for the constructor. So public team, it is a non-parameterized constructor. Even though we don't need to mention anything in the body of the constructor, but we have to mention the constructor, because if we don't mention the constructor, if we just create the parameterized constructor, whenever it will call the non-parameterized constructor, we know that if we create a parameterized constructor in my class, the already built-in default constructor will be overridden. That means if we just create this constructor, it will show an error for the non-parameterized one. Okay, so though you didn't, it is not mandatory for you to mention the body of the constructor, but at least you have to define the constructor. You have to at least mention the structure of the constructor, otherwise your code won't work. Okay, so this is the first thing. This is the non-parameterized constructor, and there will be another constructor, public team, and the second constructor will take the name of the team. So string in, and inside the constructor it will basically update t dot name equals to name. I guess you guys already know what is the meaning of this. If you mention this dot t name equals to name, in this case it is not mandatory for to mention this, because we know that if the name of the parameter and if the name of the variable is same, in that case it is mandatory for us to mention this. But in this case, in the current case, it is not mandatory to mention the this keyword, but we should know the purpose of using this. This is basically represent the current object I am working with. Okay, so this is basically the current object I am working with. So as this constructor, this highlighted constructor, this constructor is called for a object, right? Whenever I'm creating the a object, it will basically call the constructor, and it will go to line number 10. So as I have called the constructor for a object, that means inside the body of the constructor, this will represent the reference of a object. Okay, so suppose I call a method with respect to a certain object, that object's reference is basically stored inside the this keyword. Similarly, if I call a constructor for a certain object, the reference of that object will be stored inside the this keyword. So if you print this, it will basically same. The memory location will be the same as the memory location of my a object. Okay. So the class will have two variables. It will have two constructors. So there is one method which is update name method. So let's create the update name method. Public void public void, then update name method, and this name method will take one parameter. So string name, and inside this method I have to update the name. Why? Because for the first team I haven't initialized the name with any value, but I am passing Bangladesh as the name of the first team. So t name, or if you want, you can mention this dot t name equals to n. Okay. Again, there will be one method which is add a player method, which will take an argument which is of basically player type. So before executing the player type, this method, let's implement the player class first. Okay. Suppose there is the this is the player class, public class player here, and we can see that while creating an object of the player class, I'm passing three arguments: the name, the age, and total run. That means I have to consider three variables, and it is mentioned in the question that all the attributes of the player class must be private. That means the name will be private, the age will be private, and the total matches will also be private. So let's take three variables: private, string, p name for the player name, then private, then int, private int age, and private int total match. Okay, so we know that if we consider a variable as a private variable, we can't directly access this variable outside the class. That means if I want to access the name of the player inside the team class, I can't directly access that variable. So it is recommended that for every private property you mention the set and get method. Okay, though sometimes you will see that suppose the get age method is not used in the tester class or in the overall problem, it is not mandatory for you to use the get age method. Okay, so if such case occurs, you can skip that method, but sometimes we can't figure out that we though we if we need to mention the set and get method. Okay, so if you want to be in the safe side, it is better for you to mention set and get method for each private variables. Okay, so let's take some set and get method for the above mentioned variables. So there will be one set and get method for the p name, one set get method for the age, and one set get method for the total matches. So let's consider the variables. Set method will basically set or update the private variable, and get method will access the private variable. Okay, I guess we don't in this task we don't need to consider we don't need to use the set method. I guess so. For now, I'm just mentioning the get method. If we need the set method, I will write the set method. Okay, but for now, I'm just implementing the get method because I think we have to use the get method. So we know that get method will basically uh, help me to access the private variables outside the class. That means a get method will return the private variables. So what will be the return type of the get method? The return type will be the similar as the variable. Okay, suppose if I want to write the get method for the p name, so the return type of the get method for the p name will be string because I'm returning p name, and the data type of the p name is string. So public string get p name, get p name, then it will just return the p name. P name. Similarly, I need to mention two more get methods, one for age. So as the age is of integer data type, so definitely the return type of the method will be integer. Then get age, return age, and lastly total matches. So public int get total match, total matches, and it will return total m. Okay, so for now I haven't mentioned the set methods, but if we need the set method, I will implement it. For now, I don't know though I need to use that set method. So for now I just mentioned the get method, but if we need the set method, I will implement it a bit later. Okay, so let's implement the add player method of the team class. Okay. Okay, so let's define the add player method. We can see that add player method will be of void data type because there is no print statement or variable assignment before the method code. So let's implement the method public void. Name of the method is add player, and this method is basically taking an argument, sometimes Marshafi and sometimes Tamim, and these are basically the object of the player class. So definitely the parameter of the data type of the parameter will be player. So player, suppose P. So this is the structure of my add player method. Okay, so what will this method do? I can see that whenever I'm basically this is the name of the method is add player. So definitely it will add the information of the player. So we have an array which is p list. So also one thing in this question, no such scenario occurs that suppose I want to add a player and it is printing that maximum capacity exceeded. That's why you can't add that player. No such outputs are here. That's why it is not mandatory for you to handle that case. Okay, if such case was present in the output, then it was mandatory for you to handle that case. Okay, if the capacity exists, it will print you can't add any more players. But as in my current question, it is not mentioned. No such output is there that you can't add the players. So it is not mandatory for you to handle that case. Okay, so if you want, then you can just directly you can check first if you have a capacity or not. But it is not mandatory for this case. Okay, so if you skip this portion, specific portion, then it is also okay for you. And also if I want to suppose if I want to check this case that if I have the capacity in my array, then definitely I need a counter because I have to compare the counter with the 11 if the value of the counter is less than 11. So let's take another variable which will basically print the number of total players. So public int total. Suppose this is the variable which will keep track of the number of total added players. So if total is less than 11, then I will allow the method to add a new player. Okay. So how will I add the player? Basically, I want to add this. I want to update this array. So p list, and I want to update the specific index. I want to add the element in a specific index of the array. So total is basically indicating the index number. So total plus plus equals to p. Okay, so if the value of total is less than 11, then I am allowing it to update the array, and I am storing the object. I am directly storing that object. Why I am storing that object? Because the array is basically of clear type. If I don't add the specific object inside the array, then I have to take three different arrays, one for the player name, one for the player age, and another for the total matches. But this is not efficient, so it is better to take one array of player type, and inside that array I am just directly storing the player object. Okay, so I guess there isn't any output after adding the player. Yes, there isn't anything printed. Okay, so this is the overall add player method. So inside the player method, I will basically update the array, update my player type array, and store the player object inside that array. So this is the add player method. Okay, so let's implement the print detail method. So in this method, you will basically see how can we access the private variables outside the class. So let's define the print detail method. Public void print detail. Okay. So if we see the output from the print detail method, these are the informations which are printed. So at first I need to print the name of the team. So let's print a statement for the name of the team, and I have stored the name inside the t name variable. Okay, so system dot out dot println team t name is the first output. Then I need to print list of players. I need to print a string. So system dot out dot println list of players. Okay. After printing this statement, I'm printing the information of the first, all the information of the first player and all the information of the second player. Okay. And I have already stored the array, or I have already stored the object inside that array, inside the plist array. That means I have to iterate the plist array. So let's iterate the plist array. Int I equals to 0. I will be less than. You can iterate the array up to plist.length, but if you do so, then you need to check for the null value, but it is better to iterate the array up to the total value, because total is the number of total players. So you can just iterate the array up to the total, up to the value of the total value. So I will be equals to 0, I is less than total, then I plus plus. Okay. Then I have to print system.out.println. At first, I need to mention the name of the player. So name. Usually, uh, we can just mention plist is the name of the array. So plist of I. Okay. So if we do so, okay. So plist inside the array, basically all the elements are objects. So plist of I dot pd. Why pname? Because pname is the variable where I have stored the name of the player. But in this case, you can't do such thing. Why? Because the pname is a private variable. If you directly want to access the private variable outside the class, that means inside the team class, you can't access the pname because it is a private property. So we know that if we want to access a private property outside the class, we take help of a public method, which is basically the get method. Okay. So instead of directly mentioning the variable, we have to mention plist of I dot get name. This is the p. Okay. So similarly, you have to print the age as well. So system dot out dot println age. Normally, we if it isn't a private, then we can just directly mention plist of I dot age, but we can't do this thing because age is a private property and we can't access the private property outside the class. So what do I have to do? I have to call the get method, which is get age. I guess I have mentioned the correct method name. Yes, get age. And similarly, for the total matches, we also need to call the get total matches. Okay. So there will be a comma, and after that I need to mention total matches, matches, and p list of I is basically pointing towards the object, then dot get total matches. So this is the overall print details method and overall printers. Okay. So again, once again, I can't directly call the pinning here because pinning is private. I can't directly call the age here. That's why I mentioned get name and get age variables. Look, in this task, I don't need to use the set methods. That's why I didn't mention the set method. But if there is suppose from the tester class you are calling the set method, then definitely you have to mention the set method. But if it is not necessary, then it is not necessary for you to implement the set method as well. Okay. Okay, কিছু বলছেন? Do you have any question or anyone has mentioned anything? Yes, Sanjay.
Ma'am, why we initialize the array with data type player?
Data type clear? This one?
Yes.
Okay. So first thing, it is directly mentioned in the question that you need to take an array which will be of player type. Create an array in the team class to store the player's object. Okay, so you have to create an array in that team class which will store the object of the player class. So if you want to store the object of a player class, then definitely the data type of the array will be player. That's why we have considered the data type as player. Okay.
I didn't understand that.
You didn't understand? Okay, so basically just read the first hint. It is saying that you create an array in the team class to store the player's object. First thing, I have to create an array inside the team class. Okay. Then why do I need to create that array? Because I want to store the player's object. That means I have created a multiple objects of player class. Mashraf is one object, then Tamim is another object. So I want to store the objects inside the array. So if I want to store Marshafi inside that array, at first, basically, if I want to store, suppose I want to store a string inside the array, then as I'm storing a string inside the array, that means I have to consider the data type of the array as string. But it is mentioned that I have to store the player's object. That means I have to store the Mashrafi object. I have to store the Tamim object inside the array. So we need to check first the data type of the Mashrafi object. We can see that the data type of the Mashrafi object is player. The data type of the Tamim object is also player. That's why I am taking the data type of the array as player.
Okay.
Okay. So do any of you have any question regarding this task? Okay, so let's compile this task and run it to check if it's properly producing the output. So this is my team and player class, and this is my tester class. Okay, so there is one error. Oh, didn't I mention the constructor? Okay, I didn't mention the constructor of the player class. I have to mention the constructor because it is taking three parameters. So let's implement the constructor. So public player. It will take three parameters. First, the name of the player, then int age of the player, then int matches of the player. And inside this, I have to store p name equals to n, then age equals to a, and lastly total m equals to m. So let's compile the code once again. Compile. Okay. So if I run the code, so these are the outputs. Okay. At first Marshafi, then the details of Marshafi, then Tamim details of Tamim, and similarly for the continent. Okay. Do any of you have any question?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then let's solve one tracing problem. Okay, you guys tell me which tracing problem you want me to solve. Do you want me to solve this one? Did your lab faculty solve this task in the last online class? কেউ একজন একটু বলেন কোনটা সলভ মানে কোনটা চাচ্ছেন আপনারা যেটা বলবেন I will solve that problem in our last class. Okay, I won't be solving this task. This is a bit lengthy task, but don't worry, I have already provided a recording of this task. Okay, I have already provided a recording of this task in um, of my previous semester, so it is better for you to watch that task. It's a very lengthy task. Inside this task, basically recursion, there is a recursive method inside in this class. Okay, so basically not a recursive method, but it is continuously creating the object again and again and again. So if you want me to solve this task, I guess it's not efficient for me to solve by wasting time, solve this task by wasting, because I have already provided a recording. Okay, I have provided multiple recordings of my previous semester, so you can check the recordings. These are basically, I don't know if you guys have checked the recordings, but there are multiple recordings of tracing problems. Unfortunately, most of them are in Bangla. Sanjay, if you want, then you just try. First, you just try to solve the tracing task. But if you face any issue, you can just directly DM me. Then I will provide you online consultation for those tasks. Okay, so you can. Okay,
Okay.
so you can find the recordings here. There are multiple tracing uh, recordings of my previous semesters. Okay, so these are some tracing examples. I guess some of them are. I guess one, all of them. One is in English, but the rest of these are basically in Bangla. Okay, so just tell me. Except this task, in our previous class, I solved. I guess I solved two tasks from this lab assignment. One graded, one from. This was the task. No, okay, this is not the task. Okay, I solved one ungraded problem in our previous class and one problem from the practice sheet or the sheet which I provided previously. So you guys want me to solve this task? This is a multi-class problem. Do you want me?
Yes, ma'am. This one would be.
Okay, so let's solve this task. Okay. Um, just give me 1 minute. Active minute to show. So this is a multi-class tracing problem. There are two classes. One is MSG class and another class is a final T5. So at first we need to check the tester class, and according to the tester class, I have to execute the code. So at the very beginning of the tester class, I have created one object of final T5A class, which is FT5. So let's okay. So as I have created an object of a final T5A class, and we know that if we create an object, the very first thing I have to allocate a memory location for that object. So let's allocate a memory location for that object. So final T5A, FT5A, FT5A, this is my object, and suppose I have allocated FT5, FT5, 85. Okay, so this is my object and I have allocated a memory location. Suppose the memory location is button. Okay, so this is my button memory location. I have allocated a memory location for the object. And the second thing is, if inside the memory location, at first I have to create a table for this object or for the Bada location, and inside the Bada location I have to create a copy of the instance variables. So let's say define the Bada location. Suppose this is the overall Bada location. This is my Bada location. Okay. So first thing I have allocated a memory location for the object. The second thing is I have to create a table, and inside the table I have to create a copy of the instance variables of that class. Okay, so fine. If T5A is basically an object of final T5A class, so let's see how many variables are there. There are basically three instance variables inside the FT5A class. So the first one is sum, then y, then x. So let's take three variables: sum, then y, then x. The at first memory location allocation. The second task is creating a copy of the instance variable. Third task is I have to call the constructor. So we can see that I have called a non-parameterized constructor. So I have to execute the constructor, but we can see that there is no constructor mentioned in the question. That means the default constructor or the already existing constructor will be executed, so I don't need to do anything for that. And also we note that before executing the body of the constructor, I have to initialize the variables with default values. So the default values of the sum is 2, the default value of a y is 1, and default value of x is also 1. So at first I have allocated a memory location, then I have created a copy of the instance variable, then I have called the constructor, and before executing the body of the constructor, I have initialized the variables with the default values. Okay, so these are the steps I need to follow for creating an object. So the first object creation line has been done, executed. Let's execute the next line. Okay. In the next line, I have called method A with respect to the object which is inside the bundle location. That means I am calling method A with respect to bundle location. So if whenever I go to method A and inside method A, if I ever called this will basically indicate this object, which is basically the bundle memory location. So as I'm calling method A, so directly let's go to method A. So this method will be executed. Okay, so we can say that this is a non-parameterized method. So let's implement this method. Suppose this is my method, method A. This is a non-parameterized method, and we can see that there are two local variables. First one is x, and second one is y. Why these are local variables? Because I have declared these variables inside the body of the method. So there will be x, there will be y. So the default value of x is 6, the default value of y is 0. Okay. After that line, I can see that I have created an object of MSG class. Usually, we create object inside the tester class, but we can see that inside the body of method A, I have created an object of MSG class. So as this is an object, that means we have to allocate a memory location, then creating a copy of the instance variable and call the constructor. All the steps needs to follow, which we usually follow after creating an object. Also one thing, as I have created this object inside the scope of the method A, we can consider this object as a local object or local variable. So as this is a variable, right? This is a variable or this is an object. So let's create a column for that object. So my MSG, my MSG. So I have created three columns. The first one is for x and y, and the third one is for the object which I have just created, my MSG. Okay, so we know that the very first thing we have to do, we have to allocate a memory location for that object. So let's allocate a memory location. Suppose my MSG is inside the Khulna location. Okay, so as I have mentioned Khulna, that means definitely I have to indicate, or I have to create a table inside the Khulna location. So let's consider this is my Khulna location. And the first thing is we have to allocate a memory location for the object. The second thing is we have to create a copy of the instance variables of that class. As I have created an object of MSG class, that means we have to go to MSG class, and we can see that there is an instance variable which is content. That means inside the Khulna location, I have to create a copy of the content variable. Content. Okay. Then the third step is constructor call. We can see that there is no constructor, and before executing the body of the constructor, I have to initialize the variable with a default. So for creating the object in line 8, basically I have allocated a memory location, Khulna. Then inside the memory location, I have created a copy of the instance variable which is content and which is by default 0. Okay. So line number 8 execution done. Then let's execute line number 9. In line number 9, I want to update my msg.content. So first thing, my msg is basically Khulna. That means I am calling Khulna.content. I want to access the content variable which is inside Khulna memory. That means this content, this one. I want to update this content. How will I update it? I will update it this.x. So currently I am inside method A, and I have already mentioned that I have called a method A with respect to 85A, and 85A is basically Bada. That means this will point towards the Bada memory location. So I want to update the content variable by using the this dot x, that means the instance x of but the memory location. So we can see that there is an instance variable x. The value of the instance variable x is 1. So the value of the content will be updated to 1. Okay. Then line number 10. In line number 10, I want to update x equals to x plus my msg dot content. So first thing I'm calling x. That means I have to first search for the local x. So we can see that we have a local variable x inside the method A, inside method A. So this is the local variable, right? So I want to update this local variable. How will I update it? X equals to x plus my msg dot content. X is currently 6, so 6 plus my msg means Khulna dot content is basically 1, so 6 plus 1 is 7, so 7 is stored inside the x variable. Okay, then let's execute this line. This dot y means the y of my bundle location, that means this instance variable. I want to update this value. How will I update it? This dot y. Okay, so this dot y is currently 1, so let's write it for here. 1 plus this dot y equals to 1 plus, then I am calling method b. I am calling method b, and while calling method b, I am passing two things. The first thing is my msg. What is my msg? My msg is basically the memory location, right? My msg is basically the memory location of Khulna. That means I am passing Khulna as my first argument. And the second thing is I am passing my msg dot content. My msg dot content means the content which is inside Khulna memory location, which is currently 1. So basically I am calling method b and I am passing two arguments. The first one is the entire memory location of my msg, that means Khulna, and second thing is I am passing the value of the content variable, which is currently 1. Okay, so as I have called method b inside the body of the method a, then definitely I have to directly jump to method b. From this line I will directly jump to this line. Okay, so as I have called method b, so let's create a column for method b. Okay, so this is my method b, and method b is taking two parameters, and you can see that the data type of the first parameter is msg class. So we usually mention the data type of the parameter. So msg class is my first parameter, and the second parameter is of integer type. So this is the method. Okay, so let's create a table. Okay, so this is my method b. Why? Once again, why it is my msg? Because the first parameter is mg2 and the data type of the first parameter is msg class. That's why I have mentioned msg class here. And the second parameter is mg1 and the data type is int. That's why I mentioned int here. Okay, so from the while calling the method, I was passing Khulna1. That means Khulna will be stored inside mg2 variable. So this is my mg2, then mg1. So inside mg1, so inside mg2 I am basically passing Khulna memory location, and inside mg1 1 will be stored. 1 is basically the variable which I passed while calling the method, right? So this is the 1. Okay, and after that we can say that there is a local variable x, so definitely I have to create another column for the local variable x. So this one is for x. Okay, so now let's execute line number 20. Inside line number 20, I want to update y variable. That means currently I am inside the method b and I want to access y. We can see that we don't have any local y. As we don't have any local y, so definitely y will indicate the instance y. So I want to update the instance y. How will I update it? The value of my y, which is currently 1, then mg2.content. mg2 is currently pointing towards Khulna location, and mg2.content is basically 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 will be stored inside the y variable. Okay. Then this one, mg2.content equals to y plus mg1. Again, mg2 means Khulna. So directly Khulna.content means this variable. This will be updated. How will it be updated? Y plus mg1. Again, I don't have any local y inside this scope, so y means the instance y, which is 2. 2 plus mg1, and mg1 is currently 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So 3 will be stored inside the content variable. Now line number 22, x equals to this dot x. So first thing, do I have any x? Yes, I do have a local x. Okay, so the default value of x was 0. I forgot to mention it. So the default value will be 0. Okay, so after that I want to update the value of x in line number 22. X equals to this dot x. The first thing, what is this dot x? This dot x will be definitely the instance x, which is currently 1. So 1 plus 3 is 4, and mg1 is currently 1. So 4 plus 1 is 5. So the current value of x is 5. Again, the this dot x means the instance x, which is currently 1. So 1 plus 3 is 4, and mg1 is currently 1. So overall it is 5, and 5 is stored inside the local x. Now let's execute the sum. Sum equals to sum plus x plus y. So currently I don't have any local sum, so sum means definitely the instance sum, which is 2. So 2 plus x. I have a local x, which is 5. Then 2 plus 5 is 7. Then plus y, I don't have any local y, so y will be definitely the instance y. So 7 plus 2 is 9. So 9 is stored inside the sum value. So let's print our first output. This dot x, this dot y, and sum. Okay, so this dot x is definitely the instance x, which is currently 1. So 1 is my first output. Then this dot y is my instance y, which is currently 2. And sum is also my instance sum, because I don't have any local sum, which is currently 9. Okay, so these are my first three outputs. Okay, so let's execute line number 25. In line number 25, mg2.content, mg2 means kulna, so kulna dot content will be equals to sum minus mg1. Sum is currently 9 and mg1 is currently 1. So 9 minus 1 is basically 8. So the value of the content will be currently 8. It is currently 8. Okay, so let's return sum. Okay, so we know that if we return some value, the return value will be stored where the method is being called. So the value of sum is currently 9. So this 9 will be returned to this portion, right? In this portion. So we have already written this line. This is basically the line. This value or this method call will be replaced by 9. And 9 plus 1 is basically 10. And 10 will be stored inside this dot y. That means the value of this dot y is currently 10. Okay, so let's print my second output, which is x this dot y and sum. Currently I am inside method a. Look, I am currently inside method a. So inside method a I am calling x. So x is definitely the local x, which is currently 7. So 7. Then this dot y is currently 10. And lastly sum is currently 9. I haven't updated the 9, so definitely the current value of sum is also 9. Okay, so let's we have just 3 more lines. I know we have already our class time is already done, completed, finished, but just give me 2 more minutes. Okay, so in line number 13, I want to update y equals to this dot y divided by 2. So first thing, y I am currently inside method a. So y means the local y, this one. So y equals to y this dot y divided by 2. So this dot y is currently 10. 10 divided by 2 is a 5. 5 plus this dot x. This dot x is currently 1. So 5 plus 1 is 6. So y will be 6. Then line number 14, x equals to y plus sum divided by 2. X means definitely the local x. Y is currently 6. 6 plus sum divided by 2. Sum is 9 and 9 divided by 2 is normally 4.5, but it will consider 4 because I am dividing two integer values. So 4 and y is currently 6. So 4 plus 6 is 10 and 10 will be stored inside the local x. Okay. Then last thing, I want to update the sum. Sum equals to x plus y. X is currently 10, y is currently 6. So overall 16, then 8. So 16 plus 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 24. So overall 24. So 24 will be stored inside the sum. So the current value of sum is 24. So this is my last output. X y sum. X is currently 10. Y is currently 6 and sum is currently 24. So I have currently executed line method A. Why did I come to method A? Because method A is being called in the tester. So this is the last line or last output of this case. Okay. Do any of you have any question?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Clear.
Okay, ঠিক আছে তাহলে, থ্যাংক ইউ। As our class time is already over,